to be mindful of Him to the extent where we are aware of our actions and avoid doing anything that may cause Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to be pleased with us. So anything that might bring upon us the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal, we avoid it. And anything that is potentially pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we pursue it or we do it. We are reminded of this when we are commanded to observe or attain or practice taqwa. That's what it is, taqwa. That's what taqwa is, right? Safeguarding yourself, shielding yourself against the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, following the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal, avoiding the prohibitions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do that in the Quran in multiple places. And we are also reminded that it is the highest rank. It's the place that you want to be anyways. Right? There's nothing negative you can say about people of piety. If somebody says about an individual, this person is pious, you can't be too pious. Anything that you do, there's a limit to it. If you exceed that limit, it becomes something negative. But there are some noble concepts that no matter how much you have of it, it can't be bad. The more you have, the better you are. One of these concepts is piety. It's agreed upon. It doesn't matter who you ask. It doesn't matter what that person's religion or, faith is. If you tell that person, what do you think of an individual who is a very pious person? They will say, oh, that's great. It's a great description. Piety is something good. And Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Quran tells us, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Right? Observe taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can, to the best of your ability. And it is indeed the highest, one of the highest, places for a believer to be spiritually, to attain is to attain taqwa. And in taqwa we find honor, we find glory, we find dignity. We are told and taught by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the concept is confirmed in Quranic texts, that no individual, no human being has fadl, has a merit or has a position or a degree. No one is better than anyone else. Right? No man is better than a woman, no woman is better than a man, or no man is better than another man, no woman is better than another woman. No individual is better than another individual. Right? Whether it's because of their skin color, ethnicity, anything that you can think of. Nothing makes profession, social status, amount of wealth, nothing, health, nothing gives a person in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jalla an edge over somebody else except one element, and one element only. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us that over and over again. And the Quran states it beautifully. In verse 13 of Surah 49, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That the most noble, عِنْدَ Allah, with Allah. And that's what matters. Allah doesn't say عِنْدَكُمْ, amongst you, because we're very superficial. And we have very limited, when it comes to wisdom and when it comes to our judgment, we're very horrible. You don't have to go too far, As human beings, the standards that we have, look at what are the popular things that we have now, And by the way, inshallah, I'll talk about this later, but this particular generation, our generation, right? We're leaving plenty of evidence for future generations to judge us and to assess us. We're leaving plenty of that, with a long trail of, digital evidence. We're leaving behind all of that. We're writing history. We're writing our own history. But Allah knows what the future generations are going to say about us. But when it comes to our judgment, whether it's individual or collective judgment, إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ, except the exceptions are those who are on the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We have horrible judgments. So even when the way we assess, the way we evaluate things, our perception is distorted. So we look at people and we judge them based on superficial things. We look at an individual, you give that individual so much respect and so much honor, and they may be despised in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why one of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he understood this concept, and he understood this very well. And he used to say, he used to seek refuge in Allah from being celebrated amongst men, amongst people, and despised in the eyes of Allah. وأعوذ بك أن أكون عند الناس عظيما وأعوذ بالله أن أكون عند الناس عظيما وعند الله وضيعا. There are some people who are celebrated, respected, honored, given VIP treatment. In the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal, these people deserve nothing. They're debased. They have no value. وَمَن يُهِنِ اللَّهُ فَمَا لَهُ مِن مُكْرِمٍ. Right. So Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that to achieve that with Allah Azza wa Jal, to attain that, you do that by attaining the state of taqwa. The more, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The more taqwa you have, the more pious you are, the higher you will be in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the question here is, of course everyone will say, Shaykh, well, of course we understand, taqwa is a great thing. We're told about it every week. But the question is, how do we attain taqwa? And by the way, I may even challenge that and say, yeah, most of us know what taqwa is. We don't even fully know it. We still have to learn about it and study it and understand. Because there's a difference between you just recognizing something and you really fully understanding it and internalizing something. There's a difference between the two, right? But for a moment, I'm not going to challenge that. I'm not going to challenge the fact that most of us know what taqwa is. Actually, it's not even a fact, right? I'm not going to challenge that for a moment. But if we want to attain taqwa, then taqwa has a definition. Taqwa has prerequisites. Taqwa has very essential characteristics and elements. Taqwa is a commitment. Taqwa is not easy. Taqwa is very hard. There is a price that you have to pay. Taqwa also has consequences. But it also has beautiful benefits that we will benefit from. Right? And taqwa is not something that you either have or you don't have. Like, it's not something static. It's something that is elastic, something that actually grows with you. Right? And it responds. Your level of awareness, your level of taqwa increases when with a certain lifestyle. And it decreases. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, sometimes we allow ourselves. And it's one thing to allow yourself, but we also allow strangers, total strangers, to come and take away our taqwa. Pretty much. Violate our taqwa. Our taqwa is so fragile, right? That, just little things here and there, destroy it, take it away. An event happens across somewhere else in the world, in a different time zone. Right? An event happens, we're exposed to it, or we see it in a digital format, or we hear something, and it just totally destroys or shakes our taqwa. Right? Because taqwa is in a very special place. The Prophet ﷺ points to his chest and he says, "At-taqwa hahuna." The taqwa is in the heart. But this heart is very sensitive. It's a very sensitive place. And we allow all kinds of things to make their way, all kinds of toxins to make their way into the niche of our taqwa. So that totally wipes out our taqwa. Destroys it, brings down the balance of our taqwa. And then we complain. So we also have to learn, how do you safeguard your taqwa? How do you, what are the types of places or relationships that are taqwa conducive? And what are the things that one should avoid? So Allah Azza wa Jal, for instance, we won't be able to cover this very broad topic, cover every aspect of it, but I just want it to be something that you think about and something that you consider researching, you consider working on this year. You're still trying to figure out what you want to do, right? So where are you in terms of your taqwa? Where are you in terms of and taqwa, by the way, is something very, very personal. It varies from one person to another. So Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in Surah Al-Hashr, right? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, ittaqullah. And then He points out to an element that actually helps increase, helps maintain, something that fuels our taqwa and increases it. He says, وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ. وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ. Tanzur literally means let one look at. It also means to examine. It also means to wait. Right? To count on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you and I, وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ, let every soul, let every spirit, at your spiritual level, let your soul, not your CPA or your accountant, this is not something that they can do for you. This is something that you have to do on your own. There's no software to help you achieve that. There's no app that can help you do that. You will have to do it at the spiritual. You will have to take time. And you will have to invest. And you will have to keep asking yourself this question. وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ, let every soul, or let a soul, وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ, what it has done, what it has sent forth, what it has achieved, what it has earned for tomorrow. For tomorrow. The inevitable tomorrow. Tomorrow will always come. There's nothing that will stop it. Tomorrow always comes. The question is it going to come while you're here or not? Where will you be when tomorrow comes? So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, prepare for tomorrow, work for tomorrow, wherever you may be. That will help your taqwa. Imagine if we were to consider all kinds of possibilities for tomorrow. And as I said, tomorrow is inevitable. But imagine in every decision that we make, if we were to consider all possibilities in our decision making, wallahi, things will change. We will change. We will improve. Our relationships will improve. The world will become a better place if people were to think about tomorrow. Most of us, many people of course are stuck in the past, needless to say that, but most of us, we just think about the moment, this particular day, and that's it, that's all I care about. We do not think about tomorrow. We don't prepare for tomorrow. We even, we lecture sometimes our kids about tomorrow, but we don't. We do not consider the consequences of our choices. We don't. And again, as I said, I don't have to go too far. All I have to do is just examine my choices, my lifestyle. Choices that if somebody else was to do and come to me and report them, say, by the way, but I did this. How stupid. How ridiculous. What were you thinking? What were you possibly thinking engaging in this transaction? What were you possibly thinking engaging in this relationship? What were you possibly thinking considering this particular option when you have so many other options? وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدْ. Examine your own choices and your lifestyle. The problem is that we have a very common, contagious, deadly disease. It's called ghafla. So the first recommendation Allah tells us to examine tomorrow and think about it. The other recommendation that we find in the Quran, the other warning that we find in the Quran is to avoid the state of ghafla. Perhaps it is the most dangerous, the most lethal spiritual state. Ghafla is the opposite of mindfulness. The opposite of mindfulness. Right? So that's what ghafla is. And by the way, ghafla is such a miserable place or concept that when you are in it, you don't even realize it. Like there are some people who are so deep into ghafla that they don't even realize that they're in ghafla. And that's the nature of ghafla. That's the nature of ghafla. Right? Lack of awareness, state of deep negligence. It's the opposite of mindfulness. Perhaps if we define mindfulness, we'll understand what ghafla is. So mindfulness is defined as a state of active, open attention in the present. When you are mindful, you observe your thoughts and feelings from a distance, like you're watching yourself. Like you watch yourself, you observe yourself from outside. People who are in ghafla, they are so caught up in the moment, or they're so caught up in their own world that they don't even see themselves. They don't even observe themselves. They don't even examine themselves. They don't even see it. They don't realize how good or how bad they look or sound. They don't. That's how horrible that state is. But mindfulness is the opposite of it, right? So you observe your thoughts and feelings from a distance without judging them good or bad, and instead letting mindfulness basically means that you live in the moment and you are in a state of awakening. You're in a state of awakening and you fully live and understand the experience. But it doesn't stop there. In Islam, mindfulness means that you also examine the consequences of that particular moment, where that moment is going to lead you, how that moment is going to affect your tomorrow. You take that into consideration. And that's why it's just one of the states, one of the shades, one of the flavors of taqwa. Taqwa has many stages, many flavors. One of them, by the way, it is the state of awakening that we talked about, right? That state of awakening. But by the way, some people, things happen in their lives that basically shakes them, and they experience that, they have, people call it epiphany, some people call it awakening. They experience that moment. But it's just, what they don't realize, it's not it. Many people think that when they get to that moment, when they get to, or when they experience that particular reaction, they think, oh, I've reached, I'm there. No, you're not there. Because you can literally go back. That's just the beginning. And that's what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, basically, that's what he calls the state of yaqadha. Yaqadha, awakening. Awakening is very momentary. It's like a very short period. So, and it's the first step towards achieving taqwa. It's the first step. And many of us, by the way, again, experience things in life that cause us to experience it. By the way, this state of yaqadha is something that most people experience. As a matter of fact, you coming here could very well be a state of yaqadha. Some of you might be experiencing that as I speak. I may be experiencing that right now. Right? Events happen that cause us that trigger that kind of reaction from us as human beings. On the individual level, things that happen to us or our loved ones cause us a moment of yaqadha. We experience yaqadha. Yaqadha again means awakening. Right? Awakening. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he defines it, he says, وَهِيَ انزِعَاجُ الْقَلْبِ لِرَوْعَةِ الْإِنْتِبَاهِ مِنْ رَقْدَةِ الْغَافِلِينَ. انزِعَاجُ الْقَلْبِ لِرَوْعَةِ الْإِنْتِبَاهِ مِنْ رَقْدَةِ الْغَافِلِينَ. It is like someone, basically he says it's when your heart, basically, when your heart panics, or when your heart, reacts, is agitated. Once you wake up from that deep state of, that vegetated state, that spiritually, So when the person wakes up from that first moment of awakening, and the person realizes that aha moment, oh my God, what have I been doing? What did I do? When you have that kind of reaction. However, most people are not prepared to deal with what comes after that. What comes after that, or what is needed after that, to continue this journey in the path of taqwa, is azima, determination. Determination. A level of seriousness where the person says, you know what, enough is enough. I can't afford this. I can't continue like this. We can't continue like this. And most people don't reach that. Either it takes really great, serious level of desperation, or it takes, serious amount or considerable, tremendous amount of aspiration and inspiration for the person to really hold on to that state and make that determination. Where a lot of people, again, beginning of the year for some reason brings that. It's that moment where people start, self-evaluating, examine their thing, and they're like, you know what, when it comes to their health, when it comes to their finances, when it comes to their spiritual well-being, when it comes to their family relations, a lot of people say, you know what, I want this year to be different. And people examine that, but most of us are not serious. So today's khutbah, brothers and sisters, is about taqwa. It's just a reminder from me to myself and the rest of you, saying that let us fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us have taqwa with regards to our lives, to our time, to whatever assets and blessings Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. We cannot afford to play the games that we've been playing. We cannot afford to break our promises and our resolutions. We cannot afford to be wishy-washy, to go back and forth. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Tomorrow is coming, tomorrow is inevitable, we have to prepare for it. And the kind of, this flip-flopping, going back and forth and being indecisive when it comes to our tomorrow is not going to get us anywhere. And we will have to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and answer for everything that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given us. It's just a wake-up call. I say this and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make you and I of those who listen and follow the best of what they listen to. أقول هذا القول واستغفر الله تعالى لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وبعد. Allah Azza wa Jal, inshallah, in the near future, will talk about the beautiful fruits, the amazing fruits of taqwa. But one of the fruits of taqwa is that whosoever has taqwa, Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whosoever observes taqwa, Allah Azza wa Jal will make a way out for him from any predicament, from any hardship. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And Allah Azza wa Jal will provide for him or her from ways that the person cannot perceive or think of. This promise of Allah Azza wa Jal has been proven over and over again. There is plenty, and I can stand here and tell you a few stories to inspire you. And I'm sure there are people who have experienced that themselves. So it's not like Allah Azza wa Jal has not proven this to be true. It has been. And it's a promise of Allah Azza wa Jal. Whosoever, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whoever fears Allah, whoever has awareness in Allah, and belief in Allah Azza wa Jal to the extent where they avoid doing anything right? That will bring upon them the wrath of Allah. They always follow the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal in whatever situation. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Allah Azza wa Jal will find a way out for them. So I urge you to believe in this. I urge myself and I urge you to believe in this wholeheartedly and not to compromise, because there will be times where we're going to be tested. And the option is for us to compromise that, take the risk of offending Allah Azza wa Jal, doing something, right? Or holding on to our faith or our belief in our principles and not compromise and expect the help of Allah Azza wa Jal or a resolution from Allah Azza wa Jal. We as individuals, communities and families, as well as on the international level as an ummah, we are being faced with all kinds of predicaments, most of which, by the way, I blame on ourselves. It's self-inflicted. But again, the solution or the way out, brothers and sisters, is in fearing Allah Azza wa Jal, observing taqwa. If we start, and we have to start at the individual level. I can't say, well, if the ummah starts, really having taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal, this wouldn't have happened and this will change. No, I have a personal responsibility towards myself and towards the world. If you know this, if we all know this, you go and ask any average Muslim, right? Any average Muslim that is connected to the idea of Islam, connected to the concept of Islam, has a basic understanding of it. What do you think? Most of us will agree that the taqwa of Allah, being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, following His commandments, because we're begging for His help. We're asking for it. We're asking for it. We have come to realize that we're helpless. I mean, we don't have the adab, we may not have the humility that we need to go and ask about for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the proper way yet. Some of us may have not fully learned the lesson, but we have come to that realization. I think we can all agree that taqwa of Allah Azza wa Jal will be a pretty good solution, something that we can consider. But my responsibility and your responsibility is to start with yourself. To start with yourself, to start with ourselves, observing the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and make sure that we don't say or do anything unless it pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, please, I urge you to make dua, and there are, of course, ways to help. Make dua for our brothers and sisters, in all over the world. But in particular, recently, I'm in a lot of pain for what is happening, for what has been happening in Syria and in other places, obviously. But what is taking place these days, right? It's a shame on the international community and all of us. And I can't blame other people before I blame myself. And it's wallahi, it's a shame. I am really concerned. What would future generations be saying about us? More than 400,000 people died in vain, for nothing, right? And the humanitarian crisis right now, I don't think anyone can disagree on that. The humanitarian crisis cannot be tolerated. Shame on us. What is happening in Madaya and other places, it's shame on us. So we cannot just pretend like it's not happening. Nor can we say, well, I'm sick and tired, there's nothing I can do, I'll just, apathy is the best solution, because, what do you want me to do? We have to continue. We have to continue to help, make dua, send whatever, aid you can send, advocate for a resolution, push people. Future generations are going to examine this particular era of ours, and they're going to say, what kind of people lived during that time? And by the way, they will find evidence of what preoccupied us. They will be able to find traces, they will find a trail of digital information and digital files that will show the kinds of things that we've been exchanging and posting and sharing with each other. They know what kind of shows, what kind of entertainment preoccupied us. And we should prepare ourselves. We should really, understand that they may be cursing us in the future. So let's turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help us get out of this plight, this miserable state that we're in. Let us make a determination, inshallah Azza wa Jal, that we will make this day better than yesterday, and that we will work for a better tomorrow. Let us reconnect with this concept of taqwa, and ask ourselves, in any decision that we make, ask ourselves whether it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. Tonight's inshallah program starts at 8 o'clock, the Friday Family Night program, The Great Names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Dr. Ahmad Bayoun. CIS classes are beginning next Tuesday. You can register in the lobby if you'd like to learn what CIS is in detail. You are invited to attend the student orientation this Sunday at noon here at our NPR next door. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أبرم من أمة الإسلام أمر رشد يعز فيه أهل الطاعة ويهدى فيه أهل المعصية ويؤمر فيه بالمعروف اللهم رحمتك بإخواننا المستضعفين من المسلمين في كل مكان اللهم رحمتك بأهل مضايا وأهل الشام جميعا يا رب العالمين اللهم اجعل لهم من كل ضيق مخرجا ومن كل هم فرجا اللهم أغثهم يا مغيث اللهم أغثهم يا مغيث اللهم أغثهم يا مغيث اللهم عليك بمن بغى عليهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك اللهم اكفناهم بأسك بما شئت اللهم اكفناهم بأسهم اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك ندرأ بك في نحورهم ونعيذ المسلمين المستضعفين بك من شرورهم عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون